Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Yeah, on the subject of Vietnam and McNamara and Johnson, at least those people were Americans. You know what I mean? Eisenhower and all of them, they were, kind of corrupt Americans, very corrupt Americans, but they was Americans. Okay, now we're dealing with a group of people who are controlled and manipulated by Zionists. That means that when you see things now, it will be Vietnam plus. Because although the Zionists had gained some power during those days, they wasn't 100% in control of media and everything. They was up there, they 70, 60, 80%. Hollywood, there's what was that thing by Jeffries, the guy up in New York, the black professor? Empire of Their Own. Empire of Their Own. Well, just remember what you see. Warner Brothers. Who the hell, excuse me, who is Warner Brothers? Fox, 20th Century Fox. Who's 20? All you do is go and, all of these are immigrants. Russian type, they're not Russian, but they were oppressed by Russians. And when they come here in the late 1800s and early 1900s, they got rolling and they opened penny arcades and other things where you could go see little flicky things, and then pretty soon they developed, or they took inventions like the movie camera, and they exploded with it. And then by the 1920s, the movies they was making, they moved out to Hollywood, all of them. See, that was all, it wasn't desert, but that was orange groves in those days. They moved out to Hollywood, to LA. And when it says empire of their own, that means the American mind, the American vision of the Old West, the American vision of American history, the American vision of what beauty is. All of that comes from a Jewish immigrant to America. The people that came here told the American story to Americans, and they swallowed it. Hollywood, all the things, all of Hollywood is that's what empire of their own mean. Those people weren't particular Zionist, but they were Jewish people. Yiddish was that's what when they was by themselves, they spoke Yiddish. They didn't speak no English. These guys, anyway. All of that stuff that you saw on the movies or history about white American women being, or the Me Too movement. Look at the guys' names. This is the third generation Me Too guys. This is third generation Me Too. The original ones was all them Hollywood moguls. Who was they knocking over? All of those Midwestern American beautiful women, what they call them. And it wasn't just the giants. You look at Al Capone's, one of his women, he would be rubbing her hair, and he was, somebody say Al Capone was an Italian Jew, and that's not get bothered with all that. Of course, he was my hero for decades. Not decades, a decade, a gangster, This is America. Me and you can make it. All we got to do is avoid what happened to him. But their view of America and women was all the same. you know, that European, remember they're Europeans, but they're Southern Europeans, dark-skinned, you know, black hair, not blonde hair, all of that stuff. Okay, the point is that America is a grotesque invention. It was invented. America was invented. The people came over here, 1619 project, and first it was just a bunch of religious crackpots, well, religious people, and they had the Salem witch hunt. They did all of that, and they stumbled around and come up with a few ideas, and then they came up with the Constitution. But before that, of course, was the Articles of Confederation. They fought the Revolutionary War not under the Constitution, but under what's called the Articles of Confederation. That was the 13 colonies was united under 1775, the Articles of Confederation. And then the 1776 Thomas Jeffersonism. But all the things that came with the Constitution always was for them. They wrote out American Indians, and they wrote you and I, well, they didn't write you and I out. It just said for to keep unity amongst them. Remember the 3/5 compromise? That you can count Negroes since you got 4 million slaves down there. You can't count them as one person, but you can count them as 3/5 of a person. For voting purposes, you know, and what have you. You have to remember, and when we read the Declaration of Independence and a lot of these programs we had, you know, it was, when you understand the document, you could say, well, how could they leave out a huge portion of the so-called American people? Well, they've always selectively included. And the people who were in charge always considered themselves as the prototype. And before, it was Americans, WASP, white Anglo-Saxon Protestants, right? That's who ruled America. That's what all the stuff about Kennedy was. Kennedy's a Catholic. He owed allegiance to the Pope. And so he had to clarify with everybody that I'm a cracker. I am a born and bred cracker, and I go along with all this crackerism. And ain't nobody from over there, I don't care who popified he is, he ain't telling me nothing. You ain't got nothing to worry about me. Now, he couldn't say that in exact words because the Catholics wouldn't support him if he was that out and out. But he did all of his code talking. All his code talking worked because he became president. Okay? When we get up to Vietnam, when we go through all of this stuff, America has been a traumatic experience for millions of people that's been here. It's been a trauma. They tell you 2, 3, 5, 10, 20% of it, their history and their view of it. You know, every time somebody got in trouble, Jane, a white woman, right? They used to call them cliffhangers. You ever heard of cliffhangers? That all of the serials they showed us on Saturday or whatever, the white woman was hanging over the cliff. And then we used to have a record called Long Came Jones, Slow Walking Jones, you know, and that means the savior was always the white man, and the white woman was on the pedestal. Of course, she didn't have no rights, but she had a few rights. I remember a white woman saying in the 1946 movie, I'm free, white, and 21. Yeah. And that's the attitude. She was just speaking of what they had just had their 20 years, had their right to vote, and all of that. So she said, I'm free, white, and 21. That is they vote names in those days. Therefore, America is a monster history. It's a tragic history. But they made it, the world up to last week was looking at it at the beautiful America. You got people would catch boats and stuff trying to get over here. Anything to get to America. Paved with gold. Streets of America, paved with gold. And for them, the people that came here, it was. Look at the movies now. How many Negroes from Mississippi is starring in movies? Hardly. None. The last Negro was, what's his name? That we kind of like. Denzel, that's about it.
Maybe Morgan.
Huh?
Maybe Morgan Freeman.
But he'll be gone in about 2 more weeks, right? I mean, right? Old timers. Who are all the new, who's playing Martin Luther King in the late movies? Who's playing, they shoot down everybody in airplanes? Who's those guys playing those parts? You know? One guy's using the term au fait. He don't even know what au fait is. Right? Yeah. Anyway, America is a grotesque. I don't mean to be riding the broom on America, but imagine all the Indians that was here. Were they human? For him, they were not human. Why? He took everything from them and locked them up on a little reservation and then said, y'all, a burden on us. You're a burden on American society. Right? And the Mexicans, they used to have a picture of a Mexican with a sombrero on, sleeping under a tree with Z's going out. That means they're lazy. You seen the lazy Mexicans? Sure. From anywhere down there, show me one. They working everywhere, and they working all day, and they'll get lazy. You know, they starting to head that direction now. But for the last several years, they've been happy to get here. But the way they treated them, they stole, can you imagine, all the West belonged to Mexico? Yeah. California, Arizona, Mexican talk, Spanish, the arid zone, Arizona. Nevada, nieve, snow. Yeah, snow. Don't worry about Nuevo Mexico, New Mexico. Texas, good God Almighty. Colorado, red, the color, Colorado. Right? And the white man from here just took it from him and then said, you guys are, they have a saying, the Mexicans have a saying, we didn't cross the border crossed us. In other words, the border that they used to have down there. You know the only reason in the Mexican War the United States didn't take all of Mexico? It could have, but it said America would not have that white look anymore. That's why. Remember the troops from the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli? The United States Marines went all the way to Mexico City and beyond. And I remember at the university in Mexico City, I was meeting with, or we'd have certain just cultural meetings, and so it was Mexicans and Americans. And the Americans, one of the Mexicans said, perfect English of course, you stole our country from us. You stole da-da-da-da-da. And the dumb American said, we never stole nothing from you. So I got up and walked around the class from the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli. Right? The halls of Montezuma. Right? You take Mexico City and up in Peru, those were the greatest empire, and the Mayas, of course, that America ever known. And they just strolled down there and washed them up, right? And they don't know. So right now, Americans are so shallow. I didn't mean to get on this, but since we're here, we might as well stay. America is so shallow in memory. You know, and you have to remember, the people, the young people now have no knowledge of and no interest in all this stuff about what built America, and all the stuff that they see in the news if they watch it. Because the news is more a middle-class, middle-aged phenomenon. The other people get their stuff off the internet, most of the young people. And they always telling me, Dad, you gotta do this. I said, I ain't gonna do that. They're telling me I could listen to lectures, telling me 5 or 10 years ago, the phone you have, you don't have to copy stuff off and put it on this. You can listen to it. It was 5 or 10 years before I even thought about it. I mean, when I listen to all of this, the lectures, I don't care who's the people we listen to all the time.
In case you move.
Huh?
In case you